Baywatcher opens up the book just because I felt like it encompasses a lot of what's to come. I'm touching on a lot of themes, I guess, on this one, and perhaps there is kind of a linear, very abstract narrative. There is this push and pull between two sides of things in a lot of the poems, and I think on Baywatcher that push and pull is very much present. There's a push and pull between, I guess, the dead and also the living, and trying your best to stay in the present and not be super caught up in the things that have died or the people that have died, and just trying to stay super alive in your own world. The Lasso was written after a yacht trip that I took with my family back in Jeddah, and I was just happy to be back by the sea and back home. And the poem is about taking in every small thing, about beautiful moments that you know you won't have back. There's some kind of ownership in the title, I believe. It kind of is a title of endearment, even though it's a bit explicit, I would say. Being a master of fuck is being a master in getting fucked over, and you're just so used to getting fucked over, or you're kind of expecting it to happen that you're kind of a master at it. You're just so used to it, and you're just almost too good at it. I love this one a lot. I think it's definitely one of my favorites. It's about, just a friend, and kind of written in a time where I felt like my financial status and my just class, I guess, kind of dictated a lot of what's to happen in my life. And this person just kind of felt like they could just do whatever. I felt like I had to work really hard because I knew I couldn't have it. I knew I couldn't have this one thing that money could just buy me it, if that makes sense. Also, on a technical level, I think this one is probably one of the best in the book. It's pretty rhythmically tied in, but also not super tied in. It's a bit loose, and it hooks in and out of that super fast-paced rhymes. Chinatown is one of the quickest poems in the book. It reads without any breaks or breaths or stops. It's just super fast rhythmically and just meter-wise. It's about a time in my life where I was just struggling to write anything or even just make anything creative. And I would just play the soundtrack to the movie Chinatown, and things would just flow out of me. It was just super inspiring and super cinematic, and just it made me feel alive. It's also a reference to the song Chinatown by the band Destroyer, whom I love very much. I guess the entire poem is just about finding the rituals that one needs to keep themselves intact with themselves. There's this understanding that I kind of have of myself, of just always feeling like an outsider to a group of people that I shouldn't feel like an outsider to. And watching the boys from afar is kind of just taking that, but very much like with an arrogance surrounding it. It's kind of just super confident, I would say, in feeling like an outsider and feeling like things that I probably didn't like about myself when I was younger, because people would hate me for it. I'm just kind of owning it in this one. I also like the motif that I'm entranced by the ocean, even though there are two girls laying on me. And kind of from an outside perspective, one would look at that image of like one guy and then two girls on him. You'd think that the guy is kind of happy about the fact that there are two girls on him, and kind of that's all that there is to it. But to me, it's not about that. And I guess that's the difference between me and other guys. Even with the arrogance built on watching the boys, Anchor Bracelet is kind of this comparison that I have with someone, and kind of just scrambling for acceptance or just an answer to why I've ended up the way I am, even though this other person kind of has or had the same circumstances that I have, and kind of like questioning why that is. Olives was originally on Honeydew. It's always been my favorite on that book, and always one that I really liked. And it's probably one of the happiest and joyful ones in the book. It paints a picture of how I'd want things to go with myself, for myself, on myself, even though the poem is kind of giving the illusion that there might be someone else in this story. It's all about me and just about myself. Elderflower, I feel like, is a centerpiece to the book, and probably one of the most important ones personally to me. I have so many drafts of it and so many ways that I could have said what I wanted to say, and just mostly it's about being scared to go through grief again, and kind of seeing similar cycles and things happening again, and just like the things that people go through post someone's death, it kind of affects a lot of the choices that people around you make, lifelong choices, and I'm just scared of that happening again. It's, I guess, the closest I've gotten to writing about a certain person. And I'm not sure if I want to even write about them, but you know. On Nipples on Paper, we're back on the beach, and I guess the overall sentiment on this one is you have to push yourself to get over things, and kind of knowing that you have to do that, but just still feeling super shaky and scared to do so. It was one of the hardest ones to write on a technical aspect, just because it was pretty rhythmically tied, but then it was also clunky in parts. Even though it was really hard to get right and in a place that I liked technically, I still kept it because I liked the double meaning that each line has, at least to me. I guess there's the obvious meaning that the poem has, and then there's a bit more personal one to it. You may not always get the things you want, but at the end, you will get them in a different way. Nude beaches to me are kind of weird, although very human. I think the need to be naked by the ocean is pretty human. But I think the fact that you actually could and that there is such a place that one could do so is probably the insane part. But on this poem, I'm longing for the shore and longing for the beach, and things are just not working out. It isn't coming to me in a way that I want, but it did come to me in a way, kind of in an upside down kind of way, and that's kind of what a nude beach symbolizes to me. And of it, I've read something I probably wouldn't have been able to read if I got exactly what I wanted in my head. And it's kind of like being thankful and open to things coming, even if they're different. I wanted to be a dancer when I was growing up. That was kind of like my first dream, and my first love in life was just dancing. I remember telling my grandma about it and her just not saying anything and leaving the room. Looking back, I guess she thought I wanted to be a stripper or some kind of belly dancer that would just dancing for money on tables. Which, if that was the case, it would mean that she wasn't entirely wrong about the belly dancing part, because that was my favorite and I always just enjoyed it. The poem is a little story of a moment that broke off that dream for me, and yeah. White rose in my butt crack is a realization that I'm not as different as everyone else. In fact, I am the exact same. I was gonna say I'm probably the exact same, but I'm the exact same as everyone else. And although I have a rose stuck in my butt crack, on paper, when it comes to health and just normal human nature, I'm just the same as every other guy next to me. Cece is the shortest poem in the book. It's about trying your hardest to not let bad things kind of consume you, although they already are. I was thinking of the book Junkie by Burroughs while writing it. I wasn't sure if I was even gonna have this poem in the book, but then I really liked it in comparison to, or in contrast to, the poem Anchor Bracelet. While on Anchor Bracelet, I was kind of comparing myself to someone, and from an outside perspective, this person kind of had it all. And then on Exile Days, things are kind of switched, and I'm the one being role modeled and being compared to other people. Moongroom is an ode to Jeddah and my future. It's a poem about acceptance or defeat. I still don't know the difference, but I also still don't think that it matters. Call My Life Mine touches on similar sentiments that I've touched on before on poems like Why I Need to Leave You. It's kind of about when you're so comfortable with your life being dictated and controlled by someone else, you almost feel so stuck and so comfortable that you don't want to do anything else. And there's this need and want for the other person to cut you off and and for them to let you know that you guys are over, or just things are not gonna work out, for you to finally kind of pick yourself up and start doing things with your life. A friend and I took a trip to Khobar in January of last year, and it was just a fun time, but ultimately things didn't work out, and the poem is ultimately just about taking the happy parts of that relationship and what you've learned from it, and then just moving on. I wrote 20 on/fall springtime on the eve of my birthday, 30 minutes before it was officially midnight and I was 20. It was also the last poem that I wrote for the book. I guess it's about being excited, about turning a new age, but also going about it with the awareness that things might not be as exciting. 20 feels like springtime to me. A new decade or a new milestone always feels like that, where flowers and plants and beautiful things finally start to grow after the harshness of wintertime. But ultimately, wintertime will come around again in a couple of months, and this state of bliss is bound to come to an end. The poem is also 410 words, which is my birthday's date.